So I wanted to go over some of the features of the models that I build and explain some of the included items, things that can help in the field, and just go over it so that you have a good understanding of how to utilize everything that I include. So the first thing is, you'll notice there's a background image. This is Siteworks. If you come over here to the gear icon, come over to images, and drop these down, you'll see that I'll include every plan sheet that you would need in the field for your specific job. So I'm just going to turn the grading plan on. Image transparency, I think 80% works best. Hit accept. And there's the grading plan that's under all the line work. One thing to note is that I do include my line colors based on using these background images. For example, yellow does not show up on a white screen very well, but it shows up really well when there's a gray background image. So I choose my line work colors based on using a background image in Siteworks. If you don't like seeing the plans in the background, I can always include just a blank gray color so that it does change the background color, and it does make it a little easier to see in the sun. So the first thing I'd suggest doing is go back to your settings, and under layers, the way that I organize my layers, O2 are 2D elements and features in the project, easement, property, silt fence, striping. O3 is all of the 3D surface components. So any O3 is going to be included in your surface model. Curb, your edge of pavement, your contour lines, ditches, the most common items that you would stake in 3D. O4 are all the utilities. So if you see O4, storm will be 3D, sanitary will be 3D, electrical and water are always 2D, but any item with an O4 is it's a utility of some sort. O6 are structural components, if there's foundations or footers or walls. In this case, it was a little different. It was a memorial, a 9/11 memorial in this fire station project, but I did include that because that was something that was generally shown on the architectural plans. So I included that as a separate layer. And then one thing I always do is I always include under O7 is existing. I always include the existing edge of pavement, some of them, to reference to make sure that everything's aligned properly like it should be. So the first thing I'd suggest is if you're going out doing your preliminary survey, you probably can turn off all of your utilities. That makes it a little bit cleaner. I'll leave everything else on for now. The first thing I like to do is turn off the utilities. So you can see basic job, all your line work. If you were to come in and stake some of this line work, you'll notice that it's all named. I name all my line work just so that you can see that. Some things has I'll give a little bit additional information. Sometimes I just name it the same as the line work. Like this one right here, future pavilion. So that had a name different than the layer that it was on. It's a good feature that Trimble has. It does help in certain situations where you don't have to create a bunch of different layers to show different names. One thing is if I were to turn back my storm on, and I were to long press one of these, I include the size and type of pipe as the name of that line work. So that's how I name all the storm and sewer. Now there's one other feature that I include that is very useful, but it's good to know how to turn it on and off. If you go back to your settings, come over to design, and you click on this project map, hit accept, you'll see what it, if you zoom in, if you were out in the field standing in this location, you would be able to see the arrows that show the direction that the surface is sloped. So this would be where your water's flowing. So you could be out in the field here and you could see that this kind of odd corner that sits back further, it does drain away and then hopefully come around this curb. You could be standing anywhere on the job, and you should see, water flowing towards, inlets. It just gives you an idea of the way that the surface is built. Here you can see all the water going towards the inlet. So it's a very useful feature in the field to double check things and to see how, at least see how I modeled it versus what, someone in the field might think it's supposed to do. But sometimes these can get a little busy on your screen, so just go back to your settings, design, and uncheck your project map. And then the last thing that I include, if you were to come back to your settings, went to measure, if you turn on your point codes, hit accept for your stakeout points, I include radius points for anything called out on the plans. Sometimes I even find additional radius points. And then I include a point for the drainage. So this is a catch basin. If you stake that, it'll give you the grate elevation, rim elevation. But I include all these radius points. Again, if you go back to settings, measure, the point codes is the option that you want to read if you want to see the length of the radius of that point, which is the point code. Point names, usually I just use just a unique number, just a 2,000, 3,000, and so on. But on this project, for example, the drainage grates, frames, I did include, if you zoom in, D6 will match the plans if you look at that. If you have both of those on, it just can get a little busy. So if you just go back to measure, I usually keep them off until I'm ready to stake something, and I want to double check the radius. I'll turn that point code on. If you long press on it, it doesn't tell you the point code, but if you were to go to point information, you can see that point code, catch basin. So those are just the features that I include, some things that are a little bit different than most models. A lot of what I do is based off of using Siteworks. These amazing features, background images and such, it really helps in the field, having your plans readily available. I don't crop out anything anymore so that you can verify which, like right here is really important. There's been 4 revisions, so you can verify the revision over here. You can read some of the notes, all right on your data collector out in the field. So these are awesome features, and I always include enough information to fully utilize these features with your Trimble Siteworks data collector.